Hello, lovely ones, and welcome back. I am Kimberly Benjamin Hudibin, and I want to stop for just a second and do a take 10 really quickly. I created a list that I taught in a masterclass that was called Things Only You Can Give to You. There are 8 things on this list, and I want to go over these a little briefly and explain a little bit of what I meant by that. So often we have tied our entire value and our entire worth to our husbands and our family. This happens over a progression of time where we begin to identify in these roles. And what I have discovered through personal experience and working with, countless dozens of other women over a 6-year period is that when we begin to understand and value who we are, it shifts the perspective that we have on our marriage. We are no longer in a position of resignation where we feel like we just have to accept whatever's given to us, or we have to accept the lesser of two evils. We begin to understand that we have choice. And that's where it all starts, is realizing that we have choice. But the choice begins by understanding what our value is and our self-worth is. And so that was number 1 on the list, was self-love. And as cliche as it sounds, what I mean by that is realizing that it's okay to ask for what you want, regardless of how he interprets it, regardless of how he processes it, regardless of how he responds to it. It's okay to ask for what you want. As a matter of fact, it's very, very important. It's important to be honest about your feelings. It's important to be honest to share with him how you see things, what you want. It's important to be able to set healthy boundaries, not to create distance, but actually to create connection. All of these things tie into self-love and self-worth. And when we begin to value ourselves from that perspective, we are not dependent or we're not at the mercy of his moods or his whims or his needs or his wants. And we can allow him to be who he is because we are more fully engaged in who we are. So something that only you can give to you, because he cannot ever love you enough, be affectionate enough, be attentive enough, be kind enough, be supportive enough to help you love you. You have to give that to yourself first. Number 2 on the list, which is closely behind that, was being okay alone with yourself. And the reason that that's important is because that's a beautiful test of how you feel about your own company. Being comfortable in your own company has nothing to do with whether you're an extrovert and you love having people around because you get energy from other people. That's perfect. But if it is scary to you to be alone, that's a great sign to explore how you feel about yourself, because that's indicative of the fact that it's uncomfortable for you. And learning to like yourself and love yourself is paramount to any relationship that you're going to have outside of the one that you have with you. Number 3, 4, and 5 were about developing your own, or not developing, but your own interests, hobbies, friends, and family members outside of your marriage and your family. Now, when you got married, you were a whole person. You had a life. You probably had a job. You probably had interests. You had friends. You had hobbies. You did things with other people. Do you still engage in those things? Or have you become so wrapped up in all of your duties and obligations and roles inside your marriage and inside your family that you've excluded those things? If so, I want to encourage you to dive back in and rediscover some of the things that you enjoy doing that make you lose time, that make you laugh, that make you smile, even that make you cry. Think about going to a movie by yourself. Think about going to a restaurant by yourself. Think about doing things that you enjoy doing, even if he doesn't want to go with you. Because so often what happens is we have things we want to do, and then we'll ask our husbands, and if he doesn't want to go, then we don't end up doing them. Why? Why is that? Engage in those things again. Engage in those relationships with other people again. Connect into who you are and help redevelop and grow that. Also on the list was the ability to say no. This is such a biggie because unless you can say no, then you can't really say yes. Unless you can say no, then you're just agreeing. And again, that's from that place of resignation because you believe you don't have a choice, because you're afraid if you say no that it's going to create conflict. So what? You don't have to say yes to everything. But unless you can say no, then you can't really say yes, because you're just going to get into a pattern of just agreeing and going along. And after a while, you're going to feel lost. You're going to feel like you don't have a voice anymore. You're going to feel like your voice doesn't matter. So practicing saying no is a great first step in learning how to ask for what you want. It's actually huge. On the list also was personal care. Do you take care of yourself? Far too often, the women I talk to have put their own personal care needs behind everyone else's. And so they tell me that they don't have time to exercise, they don't have time to eat healthy food, they don't have time or energy to do the things that are necessary to them for self-care. If you don't have the time to do those things, I would suggest that you relook at your schedule and you carve out some time and you let some other people perhaps do some of the things that they can do for themselves. It's so, so important. It's like the old thing from the airline, put your own oxygen mask on first. You absolutely cannot pour from an empty cup. So please, please, please take care of yourself. And then last on the list was not making his no mean something about us. Because see, it's so hard. We have this concept of if we are vulnerable enough to share what we want and he does not receive it and give us what we want, we take that to mean something about us. We go into that subconscious thought that we're not worthy. Well, he wouldn't have said no, or he would have done this, or he would have done this, or he would have whatever if he loved us. We make it mean about whether he loves us, whether we're worth loving, whether we're worth his time, whether we're worth his attention. And what I want to share with you is let it go. Let him go. Do not take his words and his actions to mean something about you. Do not put all of your happiness in a box and give it to him and say, here, take care of this. Because then you become subjugated to his moods, his stresses, his energy. It's a lot of pressure on your marriage, and it's such a powerless feeling. So do not take his words to mean something about you because they're not. They're about him. And so those were the 8 tips that I shared, things only you can give to yourself. If you enjoyed this, if you found this helpful, please leave some comments and suggestions. Pass it on to your friends. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Email me at kim@themarriagemythcure.com. Please hit me up with questions and suggestions. I would love to talk to you about the things that are on your mind and whatever's causing your pain in your marriage. So enjoy this time with you, and until we meet again, I'm going to say à bientôt from Orléans, France, et bisous.